Hello, everyone. My name is Daphne St. Clair, and I'm joined here with Ethan Persyko. Am I saying that right? Persyko, wonderful. I'm joined here with Ethan Persyko, and we are going to be talking all things Toba Tek Singh. Thank you so much for joining me today, Ethan.
Thank you so much for having me.
A pleasure. I am so honored, and I'd love to hear a little bit about yourself, your experience in the theater world. I'm so interested.
Thank you. Oh, it's such a pleasure. I am mainly a director right now, working in the Greater Toronto area. I have directed, I think, for about 3 years now. I am super interested in learning about projects that have something to do with the community and culture, and learning kind of different cultures and traditions and values. I try to be super collaborative and caring in what I do, and my Toronto theater experience has been quite lovely, to say the least. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that little introduction, and I'd love to hear your role in Toba Tek Singh.
Yes, for sure. I am the co-director. I also am the intimacy director, but I mainly have been working as the co-director. Don't want to put too many hats sometimes on my head. I have worked as the co-director alongside Dave Sony, who is the producer of Dramatic Jukebox. And it's honestly been such a collaborative process. We've been devising the whole way. And it's been really incredible. It's my first time devising, so it's been really incredible to kind of work with like an ensemble and a team of like 20 plus. Like, it's incredible.
Very interesting. Now, I'm not quite familiar with the term devising, so I would love to hear a little more about, what that is.
Me too. I'm still very new to it, but I think it's essentially collective creation, and so this idea that there's not necessarily a director in the sense of a hierarchical working structure, but it's instead something that where everyone is kind of offering decisions and direction and ideas, and then we kind of pick all the best ones and stitch them all together and then create kind of a show out of that. It's very ensemble focused, working with a group, and then just kind of working together to find the collective soul of that production. Yeah.
And what would you say is the collective soul of Toba Tek Singh?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think displacement is definitely, the theme and the kind of idea that is surrounding this entire production. Toba Tek Singh is about the partition of India. I didn't know this until, directing that India and Pakistan were once one collective unit, and then under British colonial rule, and then were kind of partitioned or divided into two separate countries. I'd also say community and family is at the heart of this as well. I think a lot of people are, especially in the cast and crew, because we have a mainly South Asian cast and crew, are interested in it and working on it because they have related familial experiences from, their grandparents or parents or people in their lives in some way being affected by the partition, and them being affected by the partition to this day. One of our actors, Taran, says that I think the collective consciousness has shifted because of the partition. So it's a true mindset shift. Yeah.
Very interesting. Thank you for that. And I'm curious, what does all of this mean to you personally? I think we talk about a collective consciousness, but what's your consciousness in this whole collective?
Absolutely. I think for me, my consciousness is to learn and to explore and to grow. I'll be very honest that I think at first I was very much like, we have to get it right, and we have to be accurate, and we have to be super serious about this. But this is the production where I've laughed the most, I can definitely say, and had the most fun, excitement, and kookiness. And this show is about lunacy. So in addition to being about the partition, we're specifically looking at lunatics in an insane asylum. And so forgot my train of thought. Do you want to ask it to me again?
Absolutely.
I'm so sorry.
Take two on this one. How would you describe yourself within the collective consciousness?
Thank you. Yeah, so I definitely would say, to learn and to explore and to grow is definitely where I've seen myself within this collective. I'll be honest. At first, I was very much like, we have to be right and we have to be accurate and historically specific, and But this is the production where I've laughed, I think, the most and have had the most excitement. This play is also about lunatics in an insane asylum, so I think learning to, be an ally, but to also not necessarily re-traumatize people or have to bring them into this historical context back again, but to, in theater terms, exaggerate and dramatize and, do it differently than just, a documentary and, repeating what the partition was, I think is a great takeaway and kind of where I've seen myself in the collective consciousness. Yeah.
That is wonderful to hear. I really love that. Beautifully put. Wonderful. And I'm wondering too, we're talking about, theater and like what it is. And I'm trying to grasp, like what specifically Canadian theater is and what it means to do Canadian theater and where we fit in the landscape of things and the Canadian consciousness, so to speak. I think we're all clear on British theater and American theater. So I'm curious your perspective on how this fits in to Canadian theater.
Yeah. Great question. There's so many little stars of a constellation forming for me with that question. I think one, that Canadian theater doesn't have to be white. I think I just have to state that of just, what's interesting, you mentioned the British, and those are the exact people that colonized, with India and Pakistan. So I think understanding, colonization, I think is something that a lot of Canadian theater is trying to wrestle with, because Canada is a colonized place. So I think, for me, Canadian theater is truly representing the multiculturalism and diversity that Canada likes to stereotype itself as, but actually putting that into theater practice. I don't know other people, and I can only speak to my experiences, but I think something that I'm really interested in is not necessarily just sticking to, like, not white theater, but just like, I don't even know if that exists, but just like theater that is within my own community. But to kind of expand that and learn about other communities is really important to me, and I think to other people within Canada as well. I think we see a lot of, BIPOC and Indigenous, specifically Indigenous-oriented theater recently in Canada. So I think Canadian theater is evolving, but I think at the core of it is the people within Canada, and that's just not one kind of people or one group of people, but a diverse group of peoples that equally and equitably should all be represented on stage. Yeah.
Beautifully put. I think that's wonderful for this, turn of the century. We're in the 21st century now. I think that there's a lot to be said about that. And I'm curious how working with the South Asian community has impacted your own community and your own community outreach. You've spoken a little bit about, and how has this shifted your perspective on life and even just human interaction day to day? I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting you say South Asian community. Like I for the first time I understood what community theater was, and I think it's definitely, honestly, just bringing a group of people that are part of a community and kind of talking about their experiences based on a topic. But I think there's still so much for me to learn within the South Asian community. I make a joke with the team that there's like a couple words and lingos that I'm picking up with in the kind of South Asian community. I went to go have dosa for the first time, like in an Indian restaurant, which is this like, I don't know, like baked thing with like, there's stuff inside and there's something on I see. There's so much for me to learn, I think, again. But I think this experience has reminded me that, like, you can learn things and you can grow as a person, and to be not necessarily, a part of or directly involved in a community, but to essentially foster and facilitate ideas that a community is wanting to talk about and to present on stage is something that's really interesting to me. Yeah, I think there's a lot of community outreach that I can see for this show after it's done premiering at the Toronto Fringe. I think where can we take it next, and so what other South Asian communities all over the Greater Toronto area or beyond can we reach out to thus keep these themes and topics going. Yeah.
Wonderful. I think the main theme here is all about learning and growing and expanding, which is exactly, I mean, that's why I'm here, to learn and expand and grow. So I really appreciate that response. And I'm curious, how has your Fringe experience been so far? You talk about, already wanting to take it to other places, but what about the here and now? What are we doing here and now?
Good question. I love all your questions. I think for me, I've only this is my first time doing a Fringe show and directing a Fringe show. The last time I was kind of involved in the Fringe community was being part of the New Young Reviewers program through the Toronto Fringe. I think what's interesting and something new that I'm appreciating working on a Fringe show is it's putting me out of my element to be more social and outgoing and to reach out to people and talk about my show. It's really nice to hear about other people's shows and kind of, see what is all bringing us together. Like all of us are doing Fringe shows, so how can we as a community, in addition to all the other communities we're representing or talking about, kind of stand together as one community as well. So it's been really nice to just meet people and to learn about different shows, something that I don't think I was able to do as genuinely not having a theater show until now, being a part of the Fringe. Yeah.
That is awesome. I love to hear that this is your first Fringe experience. So what are you looking most forward to at the Fringe? I know you were talking earlier before the interview about some shows you might be going to see, so I'm curious about those shows maybe, or some other events at the Fringe patio, I believe, at the Transac. Any of those things you're most looking forward to?
Yeah. I was going to shout out some amazing shows. All of the shows that I'm going to shout out have graciously given me a comp ticket to each one of their shows, and I think that's incredible because for artists that necessarily can't pay for all of the shows but want to watch them, don't be afraid to reach out to people and ask for comp tickets. I'm going to go see Colonial Circus and Unmute today. Both shows that talk about Colonial Circus, also deals with the South Asian community, and Unmute deals with the East Asian community, talking about the pandemic and COVID-19. I'm going to see Gringas. I'm so excited to see Gringas. You should definitely check that one out. I've heard amazing things about it. Zoe Marin is just an incredible director. What else is there? There's what girls cabin fever, something of that nature.
Girls Ghost Night Cabin.
Yes.
Something. We'll link it somewhere.
Great, wonderful. Yes, that one I'm really looking forward to. I'm gonna go see Cancelled as well. What else? Kolikari, I believe is the correct pronunciation, another South Asian show. Ala Tamasha Ala has also been one that I've been dying to see as well. I'm trying to see as much South Asian theater as I can at the Toronto Fringe, honestly. Yep.
Right. All with our learning and growing themes and themes of community. I love it. Of course, there are tons of shows to see here. But my last question for you, you brought up your reviewers program, and I'm curious, we want to research and review, and in my process of interviewing and researching, I came across The Ellen Show, and she asked Cher, who I think is an icon, I thought this was a great question. She asked her, how long do you think you can hold a plank for? And I'm curious, how long do you think you could hold a plank for?
That is a great question. I am not the most plank trained, I'd say, but I would say I think a minute is what I could do. Yeah.
Wonderful. I think I could probably do the same. So our co-director, Ethan here, can hold a plank for 1 minute. I do hope you can check it out, and I hope that one of you tests whether Ethan can or cannot hold a plank for 1 minute. Thank you so much, Ethan, for joining me today. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we sign off?
No, thank you. Thank you for everything. This is the highlight of my day today. Thank you.
I love to hear that. Thank you so much. This is Daphne St. Clair Ferguson signing off.